Hi everyone, my name is Marta and I'm from DataArt, and I would like to welcome you to the 6th Node.js meetup. I'm really glad that you joined us today, and we have a fantastic guest, Kristina. Before Kristina speaks, I would like to give a word to Cezary, our Node.js community leader. So Cezary, the stage is yours.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much, Marta, and thank you for helping us to organize it next time. 2 months ago, it was really challenging, and I would say even pioneering the way to not just disable our meetups, but to organize them online. And also last time we have Mieszko. Kristina wasn't being able to join us, but right now she will serve the presentation about JSON Web Tokens. It's a very nice idea. It's about the security. So the topic that was in a lot of, little project and in POC, it's neglected, but I believe that really security should be one of the first things that we are thinking about when we are designing our APIs and front applications. So yeah, all from me right now. Feel free to ask the question, feel free to comment in the YouTube chat. I will try to get your questions and try to ask them in meantime, or if not, everything will be covered in the end. So please enjoy the chat, and Kristina, you can start.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad that all of you joined our webinar. So I'm a worker in the Cezary's company, and actually he inspired me to provide this JWT presentation and to teach you, some of you, how to use in the application to secure your application. And also I'm a member of Codist Crew, the organization of Wroclaw. So welcome anyone who is seeking and who is looking for how to start their career path in this world of programming. So I would like to share my screen right now. And we can start from this presentation. So have you ever wondered how authentication works? What's behind all the complexity and abstraction? And actually nothing special. It's a way of encrypting value, in turn creating a unique token that users use as an identifier. This token verifies your identity. It can authenticate who you are and authorize various resources you have access to. If you, by any chance, don't know any of these keywords, be patient and I will explain everything below. So this is going to be a step-by-step tutorial of how to add a based authentication to an existing REST API. The authentication strategy is JWT. This is JSON Web Token. If that doesn't tell you much, it's fine. It was just strange for me as I had this term in first time. And what does JWT actually means? Let's break down what the official documentation states. So this is a compact URL-safe means of representing claims to be transferred between two parties. The claims in a JWT are encoded as a JSON object that is used as the payload of a JSON web signature structure or as the plain text of a JSON web encryption structure, enabling the claims to be digitally signed or integrity protected with a message authentication code or encrypted. Oh, that was mouthful. Let's translate that to English. A JWT is an encoded string of characters which is safe to send between two computers if they both have HTTPS. The token represents a value that is accessible only by the computer that has access to the secret key, which it was encrypted. Simple enough, right? What does this look like in real life? Let's say a user wants to sign into their account. So they send a request with the required credentials such as email and password to the server. The server checks to see if the credentials are valid. If they are, the server creates a token using the desired payload and a secret key. This string of characters that results from the encryption is called a token. Then the server sends it back to the client, and client in turn saves the token to use it in every other request the user will send. So the practice of adding a token to the request headers is a way of authorizing the user to access resources. This is just a practical example of how JWT works. So, okay, that's enough to talk about it, and the rest of the tutorial will be coded. And I would love if you would follow along and code alongside me as we progress. Every snippet of code will be followed by the explanation, and I believe this is the best way of understanding it correctly is to code yourself along the way. And before I begin, I will expect you to know some basic knowledge about ECMAScript standards and Node.js. And also I will expect you already know how to build a RESTful API with Node.js. If you don't know, you can go with this link, RESTful API with Node.js, and to see how it is proceeded. So first of all, we need a Visual Studio and our command prompt, command line command, where we can clone and install this repository. So I will use git bash. So we need to copy this line and paste it here. Again, copy and then paste it here. Oh, no, something broken. So this is base repository. It's a plane, and from that we can
Shift insert possibly, or Control Shift V.
Oh. Okay, so okay, we are now ready to code, but wait a little bit. So you will see, let's take a look at this folder, at this structure of this folder. So here we can see that we have app.js, server.js, and package.json, and database. We can go to our repository, and here we can see that app.js file contains just the basic configuration. The database folder, it's a simulation of the database. It could be MongoDB or Firebase, and it makes sure that it holds the actual connection to the database. And here we have like a user, so it's empty list and some queries, like in database queries to find a user by ID, by email, and a function to add user. And also we've got a server.js. It makes sure that our server spins up. So right now, I will make it bigger. And we just follow by the instructions in this presentation. So we need to make sure that we are in this folder, Node.JS RESTful API init, and run npm install. Okay, so terminal, new terminal, and so I'm sure that I'm in this folder, and I hit the enter. So we need to wait a second or two for the modules install, and then we will be ready to proceed with some coding. So let's start out by brainstorming about what we want to build. First of all, we want to add user authentication, meaning implementing a system for registering and logging users in. Secondly, we want to add authorization, the act of granting users the permissions to access certain resources in our REST API. So everything is installed right now. And basically we can run npm start. This is in package.json. We can see this script start for node1 server.js, and it will spin the server up. Okay. Everything is fine, and we can first of all, we need to create this file config.js and create this secret key. This is configuration settings for the application. Everything we need at the moment is just to define a secret key for our JSON web token. And please remember that under no circumstances should you ever have your secret key publicly visible like this. Always put all your keys in environment variables. I'm only writing it like this for demo purposes. So we need to add a file config.js, and there we just grab this code and paste it there and save it. Okay, so no errors, it's all fine. With this added, you are ready to start adding the authentication logic. So we need to create a folder named auth and add a file auth controller, and then we will add this snippet of code. Okay, so now we create a folder, new folder called auth, and a new file of controller.js. Then we grab this code, go back to our Visual Studio, to our auth controller, and save it. So basically, it doesn't show us any errors, but it will, because we haven't installed these several modules. No, we have body parser, but later we will need something. So now we are ready to add the modules for using JSON Web Tokens and encrypting passwords. This is in my next slide. We can add this snippet of code. Here, but we need to install them because in our package JSON we don't have these dependencies as JSON Web Token and bcrypt, and also this one for generating a unique ID for our users. So just Control-Tab for terminating our server, and now we need to, and also we can grab this code here and install those modules. You can okay, and hit the enter. Then the next one, and we can install two modules at once, like that. And then we can see them in our package JSON. So bcrypt.js, UUID, and also JSON Web Token. So it's all fine. And now we can start our server again. And finally, let's create the register endpoint, and we will see how it will be working. So grab this code and paste it here in our auth controller. We've got our router defined, but we don't actually export them to our app.js file. So we need to export this value. But before that, I will explain what actually is happening here. So here we're expecting the user to send us 3 values: name, email, and password. In a request in body, we're immediately going to take the passwords and encrypt it with bcrypt hashing methods, then take the hashed passwords, include name and email, and create a new user. We can see that in our auth queries. So basically, we accept our user object and then push it in our, let's say, database. Then the JWT sign a method takes a payload and the secret key defined in config.js that we defined in our configuration settings here as a super secret. And then and it represents our payload. In our case, the payload is an object containing only the ID of the user. Let's write a piece of code to get the user ID based on the token we got back from the register endpoint. In order to do that, so we need to export our router here in the bottom of our file. And also we need to define our define our router.get. So we grab this code. I just jumped over some slides, but we will come back there. And here we can post our get route. So after that, we have already exported our router, and in app.js we need to use this folder as auth controller to enable all our routes and to make them work. So we grab this code, and then we will go to app.js and then add it here. Okay, so now we will save everything. I think that everybody who is coding along with me is fine and don't get any errors. I hope so. How we can test that? One of these, the tool for testing it can be Postman. I hope that you're familiar with this, and we can go to. We have to test our routes by starting from post. So if we want to test router.post, we need to pick here post, and then we need to write our path, our URL that we want to send data to. And so, for example, in app.js, we have this app use API auth, and then in auth controller, then it continues the path with the user. So here we've got our localhost API auth user. Then in the body, we remember that we sent 3 values: name, email, and password. So in my case, name is Katarzyna, and email is some random email, and the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And also make sure that you picked a row. And so basically that's it, and we can hit the send button. And we should get a response. We can see that the status is okay, and auth true, and our token. This is a long line. So in order to proceed with the get and to enable to put this token in our payload, we need to grab this token, then go to get. So get API of me. Then in our headers, we need to define this header x-axis token, and in this header we will provide our token. So x token, and in value we will define this value. So we don't need this application, and it should work. And in our response, we need to get our decoded object. So let's test this out. And here we go. We've got our ID, these values of our when the token will expire. Okay, so here, and also I would like to tell some words about this endpoint, that we are here, we're expecting this token in our headers. And if there is no token provided, we will get the message that no token provided. And to be more precise, we will get an error here of 401 unauthorized. And after that, the JWT verify method will be called, and this method decodes the token, making it possible to view the original payload. So we will handle errors if there are any, and if there are not, send back the decoded value as the response. Okay, so this is the basic structure, how we can proceed with the token and actually apply in our login and register system. So now we are ready to implement a login. We should create a way for existing users to log in. So let's think about it for a second. The register endpoint required us to create a user, hash a password, and issue a token. What will the login endpoint need us to implement? First of all, it should check if the provided password matches the hashed password. And in the database, and only after that, we will want to issue a token. So let's go back to our presentation, and here we can find this snippet of code that will enable us to log in the user. So let's grab this code, and we will add in the same file in auth controller. And as you can see here, first of all, we find our, so in our request body, we will provide email and password. Then we will execute this function, find user by email, that is stored in our auth queries, and we will find a user and then send it back. And if user exists, we then compare our passwords with that function compare sync that's provided by bcrypt, and then we will issue the token. So basically we are handling here all the errors if the user not exist and if the password is not valid. And we are ready for now to test this route in our Postman tool. We need this route, localhost 3005 API auth login, and then in the body we need to send email that of the user that we created in our post register endpoint, and then the same password. And that's it. So we are ready to hit the send button. We just okay, I need to save everything. Okay, I didn't save it, sorry. So now it should work. In the post, we send this user again. And then here in the login, we've got this token null and auth false because here our password is not valid. We can see this because we handle this error. Let's get back. And here we can see that our password is not the same that we created, because we created the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and here we are missing some digits. And now if we hit the send button, wow, we've got our auth true and token as an issue. That's a good practice when we try to break our application and see how the errors work, like how we handle the errors. And now we are ready to a little bit modify our login and register system by middleware functions. Okay, so but before this, we need to create the route for the logout. It's not really necessary because the act of logging out can solely be done through the client side. A token is usually kept in a cookie or the browser local storage. Logging out is as simple as destroying the token on the client. So this logout endpoint is created to logically depict what happens when you log out. So the token is basically set to null. Okay, let's add this code, snippet of code in our Visual Studio here in our application. Save it. And we can test this logout route. So we go back to our Postman. Here we need logout. We don't need to do anything like that. And then hit send. So, and we can see that our token is null, what we actually wanted to do. Okay, and now a little bit about middleware. So this is to comprehend the logic behind. So we need now to implement our authorization system. And to comprehend this logic, we need to wrap our head about something that's called middleware. So this is the name. Middleware is self-explanatory, I think, because that's a piece of code, a function, not just that acts as a bridge between some parts of your code. And middleware functions are functions that have access to the request and response object and the next function in the application request response cycle. The next function is a function in the express router, which when invoked executes the middleware succeeding the current middleware. So when a request reaches an endpoint, the router has an option to pass the request onto the next middleware function in line. Emphasis on the word next, because that's exactly what the name of the function is. Okay, let's see an example. So we can comment this line in our login. No, not in the login. Here we can comment this line, and then we can add next function. So here, next. And here we need to add this function as well. But it will not work. We need also add this middleware function here in the bottom before our exporting the router. So we grab this middleware function and we paste it here. Okay, so as you can see that this function accepts user and it has access to request, response, objects, and next, and then it will execute. So, well, we've got this route, and after it checks if the user exists or not, after that it will call next this middleware function, and the router will know what to do. So save everything, save all. So again, we want let's to start from the beginning. We would like to register this user again in our database. And then grab this token, go to me, I mean endpoint when we authorize me, make sure that it is get route, and here we will pass the token that we actually just copied, and then hit the send button. Okay, we've got an error. Let's investigate what's wrong. Mhm. Mm. Let's grab this code again. And I will delete this here. Okay. Save everything. So it is running. Okay. Go once again here. Then we grab this value in token. And our headers. Again. Oh. Oh. I'm sorry, I'm stupid. I'm pasting it into the wrong field. And now we've got our user object coming back. As in, we can see ID, name, email, and password, hash password. I know that's bad practice to store passwords in any database, and I'm doing this only for demo purposes. Next time we can just in our database, in our auth queries, when we create a user, we can just push instead of actual password, we can push just an empty object or like nullify this password, just not to store this in the database and not return it back to the client. So, and only what's left to make our application more reusable, we can go ahead and delete our this part with next with this middleware, and just to create another folder where we can store all our middleware functions. So we need to create a new file in the old folder and name it verifyToken.js, and then we need to copy this code and paste it there. So here in this folder in auth, we need to have file verifyToken.js, and we will copy all of this and paste it there. Save it all, but that's not the end, because after that we need to open our auth controller again, because we need to create a connection between these files. So we need to require this module. Just copy this line, then go back to auth controller and paste it here. Verified token, and now we need to use this middleware module that keeps our middleware function. Oops. So you can see that in router.get, after our URL path, we need to implement this verify token function and modify a little bit our code. Just remove that is not necessary. So just grab it and then paste it there instead of this router get. And also delete this because we have already have it in our verified token. If you don't believe it, you can check this out. So next. Okay, so now we need to test this out. Go back to our Visual Studio. Save all. We can open our Postman and proceed with the same result. We started the server once again, so we need to test we need to hit our post route again. Grab this token. Paste it here. And we can see that the same result and the same, it's still working. In this way of implementing this logic with the middleware functions. So as you can see that in this function that we implemented as a verified token, we have our check-in that if the token exists, and after that we validate it and we add our ID in the decoded, and then we just store this in a request as a user ID, and then we call next. Calling next will make sure flow will continue to the next function waiting in line in the end. And we export the function. So it's a really handy practice because this frees up all the space in the callback to only handle the logic we need. And now every time you need to authorize a user, you can add this middleware function to the chain. For example, if we would like to log in, we can add here our verified token somewhere else. And then we can play it around and don't afraid to mess it out and then come back to see how this token works. So I think that this is really powerful because only now, if you implement this JWT web token, you can really enhance your application, and only users with the verified token can access to the resources. And don't feel bad if you did not grasp everything at once. Some of these concepts are hard to understand, and it's fine to take a few steps back and rest your brain before trying again. And that's why I recommend you go through the code once again by yourself and add your best to get it work. So again, here you can see this GitHub repository, and this is actually, you can grab it. This is our final project that we just built. And you can, if you missed anything, so you can get a better look at the code if you get stuck. And remember that authentication is the act of logging a user in, and authorization is the act of verifying the access rights of a user to interact a resource. And middleware functions are used as bridges between some pieces of code. When used in the function chain of an endpoint, they can be incredibly useful in authorization and error handling. And hope you guys and girls enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed writing it. And until next time, be curious and have fun. I hope that nobody really got a disaster errors in the console. And if you did, please tell us, let us know, and we will try our best to help you out, to help this out and to sort this out. Now, Cesare, you can talk.
Thank you, Kristina, for amazing presentation. It was really great. So I mean, you can you have everything, you have the presentation, online video, and the code. You can really just sell it on Udemy or whatever. So it was really great. I was following the presentation with the code examples, but I believe I will also go to it once again, just step by step, to also make some take some more tests and take some more, I know, checks about it, and I know try to mix it a bit. So for now we have some delay on the in our streaming. So yeah, it's time for questions right now. But I will start with the first one. So I'm also wondering about the JWT concept. It's about the HTTP request, but what do you think about the usage? Is it designed mostly for the just for the front-end application, or could it be also used for the some microservices in the REST communication? What do you think about it, and what is your experience?
As far as I coded and as I have got experience with the JWT, we implemented this in one application. From the client part, it was a React application, and from the backend, it was Node.JS. So, and we used MongoDB. It's a really comfortable and handy token and a way of secure the application from the backend server side. So you can easily implement this in the back and not only in front.
Yeah, so that's really nice that we can use it to both secure the our front end, the connection from the front end, the client, as well as in the microservice architecture. So it's really nice concept. Also, I still don't see any question. I see somebody. Thanks for the presentation. Yeah, so that's great. So feel free to just comment, whatever, ask right now, because right now we have the possibility to answer it live. And you mentioned that yeah, this concept it's not that easy. I mean, also security is not that easy at all. But yeah, when you were showing it, it really looks quite straightforward, but you say that it's really better to just go through it several times and just be aware about the steps that are happening. Can you remind what was the hardest part from your perspective to understand? What was, I know, counterintuitive or somehow not that easy for you to when you were starting to make research on this topic and implement it?
Back in the days, back a long days, so I remember that I was really struggled to actually use, like, to grab this token and then implement and make it work in Postman. So sometimes, like, every time it crashes, like the application crashed. And after that, we just investigated that it was the problem with these headers. Sometimes you can implement this via barrier token and also like use this JWT. And it can be confusing. But as long as you can ask anyone experienced with that, or like just on Stack Overflow, it's a good practice to see any other's opinion and the way of implementation of this token. And after that, it will go fine. I hope so.
That's a great idea to also consult it, to also make the a lot of security concept more fashionable. So as I see, more and more companies are really making the proper testing for the application and even make a TDD and so on. But yeah, we need to also think about the security. So as I see, I know the jaws dropped, and yeah, possibly people are just looking at the code, or it was really to get some more questions, they need more time. So I also paste in the chat the invitation to our Discord community, because feel free to also comment it here under this YouTube link. Please also feel free to join us at the meetup.com. And also, yeah, join our Discord channel, because our community is, let's say, local, based on Wrocław, but right now everything is distributed, so you can join wherever you are. And we're also waiting for some new initiatives and also new speakers, because next time we will possibly have a special guest, but there are also more and more months to come. So yeah, just feel free to join us, ask us what kind of presentation do you like more, some technical tutorials, some overviews, some more advanced or simple topics. Yeah, let's just stay in touch, because there is really a lot of fascinating things happening in Node.js community. So we have the Dino, the alternative implementation of Node.js by its initial creator, going on, released just a few days ago. The NPM was bought by the GitHub, so I believe that many interesting things will be happening in the Node.js and JavaScript world in the near future. So I see there is still no questions under the YouTube chat. So I think, yeah, let's discuss in other ways. So thank you very much, Kristina, and yeah, if we have somebody from also DataArt to close the meeting. And thank you also very much, Kristina. Thank you very much, DataArt, for hosting this meeting in such a nice way.
Yes, thank you. Also, I'm sharing my wishes to have productive work and more webinars on the technical topics and other stuff. We're always ready and glad to proceed.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's all. So yeah, we see some people are just waving bye at the at our YouTube chat. So exactly, we're just finishing. So yeah, I hope we can also bring some new topics next time. And this one was really really nice. I like it. I hope we can also maybe base some, I know, some other presentation on it, maybe extend it. Well, we'll see. Yeah, thank you very much. Hope you enjoy. I'll also paste the link to the Discord channel in the comments of the